but at least contribute, to make some kind of a important contribution to a cold case. And the key part of that is actually you guys. We're here in the hopes of getting you guys watching, and if as the audience grows, the way to solve a new case, the way the police generally solve cases are with tips. So that's what we're going with. Let me just, somebody's texting me. Usually that means my mic is not working or something. Can you hear me good?
I can hear you well, Kevin.
Oh, okay. It was a text from you. All right.
Oh.
We're evolving, like I said.
We're evolving. AI lets me text without hands-free, I guess.
Right. It must have been something you sent a little bit ago, and it just came through. Because I could see you're not texting. I'm like, I look down. It's like, this is from Margaret.
Oh, that's funny.
She was saying, you got to comb your hair, Kev. Don't forget to comb your hair.
Yeah, it's absolutely right. I comb mine. So Kevin, you were going to start out with some news. I'm dying to see what you have.
On the Holly or on something different?
Oh, no.
Well, so we were going to have on a special guest tonight, Richard Price. He is now rescheduled until Monday, September 15th. He has some new information on the Holly Piirainen case, and he is kind of the authority on that case. And he has an excellent podcast, a 5 or 6 part series that's truly groundbreaking. And unfortunately, it hasn't really got the attention that it deserves. But this is a fascinating case, because obviously these cases are tragic, and it's very sad to go over them. But you go over them in the hopes that you might lead to some information coming out, and you also want to learn from them. And one of the things that fascinated me about this case, and we'll get into this a little bit after, and then Richard, when he comes on the 15th, will give us even more, was that years after the death of the young woman, she was a kid, she was 10 years old, and after somebody who had died, but apparently had some information on the case, possibly even was himself a suspect, was this a confession? We don't know. But he arranged to have an envelope with information that was put into his casket with him.
Yeah,
and I don't know if and I don't know if his instructions were not to reveal that until 10 years later or whatever it was. But 10 years after he was buried, that came out, and the police exhumed the body. And sure enough, there was an envelope in there. But unfortunately, it had not been sealed in any plastic or anything. So it doesn't seem that anything useful was, all the contents of that envelope were destroyed by water and age.
So why don't we talk to the viewers about the case, like give them an overview. So some people don't know what the Holly Piirainen case is about.
Okay.
I can talk about that if you want.
Sure, go ahead, and I'll just be putting up a slideshow that I made on it.
Okay. So basically, we're talking the woods of Sturbridge, Massachusetts, which is out in Western Mass. On August 5th, 1993, this sweet little girl, Holly Piirainen, which if you can put a picture up, Kevin, she set out with her brother, Zach, to see some puppies. So basically they were out there, the family, she was 10 and her brother 5. The family was out there visiting the grandmother's cottage. She had a beautiful cottage on the lake, very woodsy setting, but also a very safe area at the time. So little 10-year-old Holly, who loved dogs, wanted to see this new batch of puppies that I believe were very small and pretty much just born. So her and her brother Zach took the short walk to the grandmother's, from the grandmother's house to where the puppies were. It was right down the street, very close. And little Zach came back without Holly. And the dad and mom were like, hey, where's your sister? And Zach didn't really know what to say. He was only 5 years old. But later it turns out that Holly had said to him, just go, just go. So, and he was too young to really remember anything else. So the parents sent the other brother, Andrew, down the street to where the puppies were to try to find Holly. And he returned without Holly as well. So then the family became really nervous and they went down down the street to look for Holly, and there was no sign of her. So they looked and they looked, and they found a shoe or a sneaker belonging to her left by the side of the road, and that was it. But there was no blood on the shoe. There was no signs of a struggle. And then, of course, they called the police, and it became a larger, very, very massive search in Massachusetts. And of course, the media was involved.
Mhm.
So the sneaker was found in the dirt along South Shore Road, and that's the road where the puppies were. So after that, they looked and looked and looked, but Holly's remains were ultimately found by hunters later on in a neighboring town, or a town not far away, in Brimfield, Massachusetts. And again, people have said that, you know, Kevin, it's interesting because like somebody with local knowledge would
Right.
go in those woods in that particular area. So that was kind of interesting.
So I have it
And
on
then,
I have it on Google Maps here. If
oh,
you wanna,
okay.
we can pause for a second now just to give people a
Yeah.
sense of space. So this is, let me go a little pan a little further out to show where this is. So this is Worcester up here on the right corner, if you can see, and the red marks South Shore Drive in the town of Sturbridge, where this took place. And actually, at this time when this happened in 1993, as I zoom in a little closer, there's a street called Stafford Street that goes from Worcester, and it goes all the way through Cherry Valley and Leicester. And at the time, that's where I. Oh,
Oops. Sorry, that was me.
that's a.
If you heard
I was wondering what
something.
that was. Yeah.
Whoops.
So anyways, I lived on Stafford Street in 1993 when this happened, and I remembered. See, I had just moved from Worcester. I'm from Boston back to Worcester, and Stafford
Yep.
Street leads. It's about 2 kilometers from where Holly went missing, and I never really knew where she went missing until I just looked it up today. But I remembered in
Yeah.
1993, one day coming home
Yep.
and seeing people putting up these signs, and I had it in the slideshow that I have there. I'll show it again after. But these posters on the light posts everywhere, they really were very organized. The family was in trying to get. They were proactive. They didn't just leave it to the police, and that's not. They were working with police. That's not anything anti-police, but they didn't just sit back. They were right from the get-go. So
Oh
here is
yeah.
you see the lake here. It's called South
Mm-hmm.
Pond. It's called South Pond. And it was somewhere, I'm not sure. So I have the red dot here, but I don't know exactly where it was that that she was taken from, but it's somewhere on the road that went along this pond. And then if we see to where her body was found 9 miles away in
Right.
Brimfield, and here's Brimfield right here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Brimfield is like known for a famous antique flea market that goes on
Yeah.
all over there, and a lot of antique stores. So, but this whole area is generally pretty rural. It's a very beautiful area, actually, especially in the fall.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of little towns that come together. Old Sturbridge, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
Cherry Valley. It's not far from Spencer if you go further north. So it's a very nice area. But so this is not an area. This is an area where she was staying. So she's actually from Grafton, which is on the other side of Worcester. And but her grandparents owned a cottage or a house on the shore here. And her and her 5-year-old brother, Zach, had walked a 5-minute walk that morning to go look at some puppies.
Yeah.
There was a farm nearby that had some puppies, and only the brother made it back.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned. And but the weird thing about this case is, and what something I really want to discuss with you, Kevin, is
Yeah.
2 different occasions. There was a man named Pouliot who they
We seem to have frozen out, Margaret. Not sure if the problem's on my end, and maybe I have too many things open.
seen in the woods where they found her body. But I had gone hunting in the area, but so he was named a person of interest. And of course, then he died. Like so he's been dead, but they never made the jump to name him as a suspect.
Right.
So there was that, but you know, all these years have passed. I'd like to know, I think the public deserves to know what that was. Like maybe somebody will call in a tip, and if they reveal what it was, oh, it was a white shoelace or a shoe or
Right.
something, whatever it was. And then maybe somebody else would remember this guy or remember his best friend, said, oh my God, that shoe doesn't belong to him, but it belongs to somebody
Right.
else. So I don't understand why they don't come out and let the public know what it was they found years ago that, you
Right.
know, matched them sort of to somebody who's now dead. And
Right.
then, yeah. And then the other clue was what Kevin was talking about. You know, you're talking about there was a letter in a coffin. Now that coffin, that the guy's body was exhumed, and they couldn't read the letter there because it had so much water damage. But there's other information surrounding the letter. There had to be, in order for them to exhume that body.
Right.
I'd like to know what that is too. What was it that they felt was strong enough evidence to actually exhume the body? Again, the public doesn't know. And again, the family doesn't know. So it's very frustrating. And then the latest thing, and I believe this was in 2023, the Hampden County District Attorney's Office recently
Mm-hmm.
released a new clue, which was a white tank top emblazoned with the word Boston in purple, blue, and pink lettering, found near where Holly's body was discovered. Investigators are asking the public who owned the shirt, where was it sold, and could it belong to Holly's killer?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know it's been like 30 years now, and they're just coming up with this. I believe that was in 2023. I'd have to double check. But the DA's office said, we will spare no expense. This is a quote. We spare no expense. We use the latest technology, but in many instances, we cannot do it alone. We need the public's assistance. So if they're looking for our assistance, my God, you know, give us
They
a
should
little
be
more
given more information. Right. Right.
Yeah.
This is
So,
exactly what we talked about this in the last episode that John Douglas said in his BTK book, that this is what
yeah.
they should within days, if not even within hours, if the case is starting to go cold, they should be giving selective information to the public. And at some point, yeah, you hold off a little bit, but for the most part, this case is very cold now. And whoever did
Yeah.
this is, you know, could still be alive, but he's getting older.
Yeah. Yep. And we also talked about, you know, the police should never give up on justice, no matter how old the case is. So, and then, you know, there are connections. The Holly Piirainen case, there's connections with the Molly Bish case. Molly was, want to hear something chilling that I didn't know, Kevin? Molly Bish, who went missing, and you can talk about her case if you'd like, but she's another missing girl from a town not too far away. She was the lifeguard who just went missing without a trace. And then
we're going to have a special guest on that tomorrow night. Aaron. Yeah.
Yes. So there have been several persons of interest that they've looked at, but there are a lot of parallels between the two cases. And, you know, they've looked into various sex offenders. They've looked into, you know, possible suspects. There was a guy in a car that Molly Bish's mother saw when she dropped her off to be a lifeguard that day. So, you know, I just feel like give us a little bit more.
Right.
That
I thought you were going to mention the letter from Molly Bish, because I have that.
Oh my God. Yeah. You know what? It's late
yeah.
tonight. I'm like, what? It's a Monday too. Yes. So thanks, Kevin, for reminding me.
She's
Molly Bish.
I don't know if I have it in front of you if you want. It's probably hard to read on your screen, but it's just a short letter. She wrote, she was the same age.
Good.
Yeah, she was 10 years old, the same age at the time as Holly. And she said, I'm very sorry. I wish I could make it up to you. Holly is a very pretty girl. She is almost as tall as me. I wish I knew Holly, and I hope they find her. So that's what Molly Bish said at age 10.
To Holly Piirainen's family, her parents, she sent a letter, and then she goes missing.
And then she goes missing a few years later.
I think that's just crazy. But again, you know, I just wish they'd release a little bit more information on that.
So there were, I guess, 4 retired police investigators that took a special interest in this case, I believe, with the full support of the family. And they developed conclusions that were a little bit different in some instances than Richard Price. And he's going to come on and talk about his some of the things, areas where he differed. So he'll be on September 15th. But
Great.
so we see here the suspect, and I'll bring it bigger on the screen. This is the suspect that is now deceased, but that many people and police ended up thinking was a suspect. And I believe that it said this was not the guy who was in the coffin.
No,
but I'm not sure about that. So
no, I think the guy that was in the coffin was younger than that.
Yeah,
I read.
I know it's weird. In fact, here it is here. All right. On October 20 and in October of 2020, Boston's Channel 5 reported that according to their sources, the body of a 22-year-old man,
yes,
22-year-old man, was exhumed at a cemetery in Hampton County. Is that in Massachusetts or is that in Connecticut?
Oh, that's Massachusetts. Hampton County is where all these towns, like I believe where Brimfield, Sturbridge.
Oh, okay.
Big county out in western Massachusetts.
So they exhumed his body, which might be connected to the investigation into the disappearance. And sources told the news station that the man exhumed was not this guy, David Pouliot. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name right.
Pouliot, yeah.
Pouliot, okay.
Yep.
I never can get these names right. I'm lucky if I can get your name right, Margaret.
Oh my God, yeah, Lollapalooza. That's a Karen Reed reference.
Yeah. Holly's cousin, Leah Jolin, and Leah was interviewed in the podcast that Richard Price put out, and we'll be having him on. So maybe we'll play a little excerpt of that. But Leah, I think, was 13 at the time that Holly was 10, but they were very, very close. And so her cousin said that investigators were searching for a letter placed in the subject's coffin that could advance the case. I don't know, so is this the 22-year-old man? Why would why is it? Yeah.
So
but Jolin said the retrieved item had suffered much water damage.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it could have been the 22-year-old guy. Yeah. Why is somebody dead at 22? Is it suicide?
So Kevin, my understanding is, first of all, the guy who was 22 could not have placed the letter in his own coffin. Right?
Oh, well, probably not.
So,
probably not.
Yeah. All right. So we're straight on that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
pretty sure.
I don't think so.
I'll go along with that.
Yeah. Okay. So someone else placed this letter in the 22-year-old guy's coffin.
And what were the circumstances that whoever placed that letter, when did they come forward? So I'm just totally speculating here because it doesn't say, because it says that it was over 2 decades in the ground, actually, water damage over 2 decades in the ground. Right. So did this person leave instructions to a relative or a friend to leave that in the coffin, however, not to reveal anything for 20 years or 25 years or whatever it was? Or did someone just have a pang of conscience? Or maybe even the person, whoever put the letter in there, told somebody else but why did it take 2 decades for someone to go to the police? And that's very unfortunate because now that evidence is apparently completely destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating.
What a shame. Can you imagine the police? Like, the police had to really think about, they had to have, like I said before, strong evidence to exhume the body. Can you imagine they finally get the permission? They finally get the diggers out there. What are those called? The big backhoes. They dig, they go through the process and they open the coffin. There's the letter. They must have been so excited, and then they can't read it like that. Yeah. That's something you find in a book, right?
I know. It's like a movie, definitely. And they can't find anything, but then through some really advanced technique, they're able to get out one word or something like that, or something, something from the envelope, or I don't know. Yeah. It's really, really weird.
You can't make this up. Like, if I was writing a fiction book and put a letter in a coffin, it's kind of interesting. I haven't heard of that before. It's kind of cool.
So we've got at least 3 suspects in here. We got this guy, Poirot, whatever his name is.
Pouliot.
And, Pouliot. And then we have the 22-year-old guy who died. But
I don't know if he's a suspect. He was never named as. So here's the one thing, Kevin. No one was ever named a suspect in this case, only a person of interest. But the 22-year-old guy, I don't think would have been old enough.
Well, talk about that then.
Well, I
As a
have
lawyer,
to.
Margaret,
Oh,
what is the
great.
meaning? Like, what is? Sorry to put you on the spot, but
Ah,
when is what are the police official designations? I mean, is there some legalese reason? Like, they obviously consider this guy Puglia a suspect, but they're not using that official designation. So
no.
what is it? What comes with giving someone that official designation? Does anything come with that?
Well, I mean, nothing legally, but obviously
Mhm.
the police have certain steps, like person of interest, and then there's a suspect. It's somebody who obviously it's a higher level than the person of interest,
Right.
but I think also perhaps it plays into the media. So if the media see person of interest versus, I mean, the media is going to go nuts over the word suspect, and also
Right.
maybe they're worried about like potential lawsuits if they name you as a suspect in
Mhm.
a murder, and it turns out they were completely wrong.
Right.
Then I don't know. Could you possibly would they be worried about a lawsuit? I'm not sure. But if they just say person of interest, that
Right.
makes it easier. It levels the playing
Right.
field, meaning, oh well, we want to talk to you about maybe somebody came into your bar, Kevin. You're a person
Right.
of interest because you spoke to this other person that we want to talk to you about that. So
Right.
it's like all different levels, but I think it's to protect themselves. Wouldn't that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I am generally a person of interest. At least I'm an interesting
You
person.
are. You are. So there you go. And I'm gonna well, maybe I
uh,
am, maybe I'm not. But it's
is it also
again,
possible? Now, it would be a little bit different maybe when the person of interest is deceased, but would this also be a distinction of, like, once the police name someone a suspect, are they therefore required to seat a grand jury, or is there something involved with that?
no, they're not, it's not
No.
required, but I mean, I think it would require to remember to name someone a suspect. We're talking
Yeah.
about naming them publicly
Right.
as a suspect,
Right.
in my understanding.
Right.
So and
And of
ultimately if
course,
they have
naming someone a person of interest does the same thing.
kind
It
of
casts that does cast that suspicion on that person if they're
suspicion,
still
yeah,
yeah,
possibly.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it
but a grand jury is different. So if the police believe they have enough evidence to a case before a grand jury, remember, in a grand jury, there's only the prosecutor. So a defense attorney wouldn't be
right,
in there, and it's an investigative tool. And in Massachusetts, you
right,
have 23 grand jurors, and the police will, they'll be called as witnesses. And again, it's bare bones. You can indict a ham sandwich. Okay, that's
right.
what lawyers talk about. But basically,
Hey, I like
you
ham
present.
sandwiches.
Yeah, well, like indict you. So, but you have enough information, and you have this evidence, and then there'd be enough for an indictment, and then the grand jury would have to decide if there's enough. And again, it's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's basically a much lesser standard, um, like a preponderance of the evidence
Right,
standard, much lower. So, and they very often grant indictments, or they all will indict a case if the DA asks them to. Very
right.
common. My mother was on a grand jury. She thought it was interesting. So
So the third person of interest is a middle-aged white person with a scruffy beard, or
yeah.
scruffy hair, facial hair. And this is the person that the investigators, that were the four investigators I mentioned, they believe this is the killer. And their basis on
Oh,
that, there were two, and Richard Price doesn't necessarily agree with that. So we'll see what he says.
yeah.
He was a little more they were, maybe he just wasn't quite as strong about that, but as these guys were. But their reason was, so there were two teenage girls, I think they were cousins, that were walking to a mailbox in that area along the same road, I believe, and they saw someone in a pickup truck that scared them. He was
Yes,
staring
I
at
read
them,
about that. Yep.
lewdly and maliciously, and all kinds of
Hmm.
words that they were willing to use later on. But they didn't even get to the mailbox. They were so scared they ran back into the house. And then some period later, they tried again to go out, and once again he was still out there again, cruising around in that pickup truck. And this was around the same time that that Holly went looking for her
The puppies.
at the puppies, looking at the puppies, and was with her brother, and was known to be standing somewhat in that area. And then there was one of the cousins from her house saw the white pickup truck, or I don't know if it was white, the pickup truck speeding later on and no longer paying attention. So the inference was that maybe he had already, that's the point that he had just abducted Holly. But so these investigators really believe that it was the person in the white in the pickup truck.
Yeah, and didn't that description, wasn't it similar to the description in the Molly Bish case of the guy that was waiting there by the pond?
Was he driving the same thing? I'm not sure.
Well,
And then
I feel like I kind
yeah,
of thought that the descriptions were similar.
you might be right. Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
can
Of course,
look into that.
it's a common vehicle, especially in areas like that. Everybody's got a
Yeah.
pickup truck to put their tools in and their hunting
Yes.
gear or whatever. So,
Mhm.
and I keep throwing in the word white because it's like stereotypical, but I'm not actually even sure that it said white. It just said pickup truck.
Okay.
So yeah, they noticed it. So let's see. Yeah, Richard Price, investigative
Mhm.
reporter, discovered that one man who lived in the area and owned a similar looking pickup truck has a lengthy criminal history, though none involving a child. And that's the thing. When you listen to Richard Price's podcast, see, this is the thing. When we hear lengthy criminal history, we'll have to say, "Oh, that must be the guy." But none of those. But as Richard points out in his podcast, none of those crimes involve violence, sexual crimes, or violence against children, or anything similar to that. So it's hard to really. You have to kind of dial that back a little bit. Just because it was a guy that had a criminal record in the area, but his crimes have nothing related to this.
Right.
The other thing, so I don't know if your mind goes the same way on this, but so Holly very few people knew that Holly and her brothers were staying with the grandparents, and virtually nobody knew that they were going to look at puppies that day. Holly didn't live in that area, so she didn't know it too well. She wasn't someone that people would have known her, and she would have been exploring the area and got to know people and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems a little bit less likely that this was a targeted crime, in that it seems more like a crime of opportunity.
It's
and
very
the other
possible.
thing, it just comes to my mind that way. And the other thing is, when you think about the missing sneaker, that suggests that nobody tricked her into the truck. Somebody grabbed her. Because if she had gone into the truck willingly, like somebody comes in with some kind of story, "Oh, your grandfather sent me to pick you up," or something like that, you're not going to leave your shoe behind. So
No, it probably fell off.
So even if you're getting in the truck and it falls off, if this guy's tricked you into the truck and you're getting in willingly, you're going to say, "Oh, I lost my shoe. Hold on a second." So it does, to me anyways, suggest that this person, even if initially he might have rolled up and said something friendly to get her to talk to him, he yanked her violently into the truck. And then lastly on that, the brother didn't see anything like that. He just came home and said, "I left Holly with the puppies," or something like that.
Well,
No.
The brother said that Holly said, "Go."
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
and then he ran back, but he was only 5.
He's only
And
5. Yeah.
he doesn't remember like anything else. Like he doesn't remember her being abducted or some guy there or anything like that. Maybe he blocked it out for all we know.
And he did come back. Interestingly, so he went to look for her after telling the grandparents that she wasn't there, right?
Andrew did. No, the older brother.
Oh, it's the older brother
is
did. Okay. All right.
The younger 5-year-old brother, Zach, came back without Holly, but Holly said, "Go." This is according to an interview that I watched with one of Holly's relatives.
Okay.
But that's all he remembered. And then Andrew,
because he came back and said Molly was taken. Holly was taken, right? So
he came back alone. And then, the dad and mom thought, "Oh, that's weird." And sent the other brother, Andrew, out. And Andrew went to look for Holly and they couldn't find her. And then, came back alone again. And that's when the family went over there and looked.
Right.
So it's
this on the left here is the flyers that I still remember too.
That
they were putting around. It's so
I remember
it's chilling to see it now.
1993.
Yeah.
When she disappeared in August.
And This was investigators. They did a very massive search over the area.
Yep.
Holly's
The family
parents
was
and the
just,
family have
yeah.
always stayed very actively involved in trying to bring this case to the public. And these are just some pictures of Holly. And the interview that I heard today with Leah, she was saying that her cousin was very sassy, stubborn, and very independent. She had a fierce, but a lot of that describes a lot of girls at that age.
Yeah. And she
Did
loved
that?
dogs.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Was that
remember
you at that
that.
age? Was that you at that age, Margaret?
Yeah, I would have loved to have, I would have wanted to go see the puppies. I kind of looked similar to that at that age, like that.
Mm,
And,
yeah.
in 10, 10, you're able to walk down the street with your little brother. I remember being 10. The one thing
Back
that's
then, we
interesting
did.
is,
Nobody was
yeah,
worried
probably
about these
not
things
now.
back then, Margaret.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I maybe people are different, and this would be interesting to ask the chat. But like when I was 5, I'd remember, like I'd remember seeing a guy. Like I still remember quite clearly events that happened when I was 5, and
Right.
I feel like something bad must have happened, and maybe he got away and he blocked it, because I just think it's strange that he couldn't remember a thing about
Right.
seeing a man. Like, why did he return alone? I just,
Right.
that part baffles me a little bit. And also another question I saw in the chat, what about DNA evidence? Obviously
Right.
they still have clothing. I'd like to
Yeah.
know, have they tested? I wonder if they'd ever exhume Pouliot's body to see if there's any DNA matches, or do ancestral DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would think it's such a big, high-profile case that investigators would be really into getting, trying to match some DNA samples or some relatives to some of these suspects, because they're able to do that now.
ChatGPT had said something. Again, ChatGPT is not always reliable. That
Yeah.
there was DNA evidence connected to an item. It was very vague.
Well, that was I think what you're referring to, though. They might have been talking about, there was something connecting Pouliot to the crime scene.
Okay.
But they would never
You're
say
right.
what
Yeah.
it was. So the police are very quiet about any evidence connected to this case. They're
Yeah.
not telling us anything. So, except for maybe, a few descriptions. They did show that clothing that I talked about earlier.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's like the public is left, like I said, in the dark on this case. And I don't think it
Yeah.
should be.
I think one thing that they've kept secret is exactly what was on her, what type of sweatshirt, what was on her, or her t-shirt. I'm not sure what she was wearing, but what it said on it, because they've wanted to use that, because they did, if I remember right, and tell me if you heard this in one of the podcasts, they did speak to, I don't know if it was the guy in the pickup truck, or who it was, but somebody who did mention what it said on her shirt. And that was something that had not been reported publicly. Do I have that right? Do you remember seeing that somewhere?
Well, the information that was just reported publicly, though, I read that.
Oh, I just found it. It's in the Wikipedia in an interview on the podcast. So yeah, it's on. All right. So that's where it was. I heard it on his podcast.
Okay.
A family member said that an investigator told them that the subject correctly identified a detail about Holly's T-shirt on the day of the abduction, a detail different from what the public knew. So which subject was this? The subject in the picture, in the pickup truck?
But they didn't say, did they? They just said a
Yeah.
subject. Yeah.
It comes under the heading of the part on the article about the man in the pickup truck, but it's not the best written Wikipedia entry ever, so it's not really clear.
Yeah. Well, it'll be very interesting then to move ahead and talk about Molly Bish tomorrow night, and how it relates back to this case, and also talk about this case in further detail on the 15th. And we'll really have to give that a social media push, so we get people, we'll have to plug this a little bit. And Kevin, you and I have not been great at plugging the show so far.
That's all right. I did tweet it yesterday. So just
Okay.
for people
Okay.
but for people that are listening to know, we'll be here in some form. Someone will be here Monday through Friday from 8 to 9.
Yeah.
So just come and check us out. And a lot of these cases, so we're going to talk about in a moment that Margaret has something interesting new to report. But when it comes to cold cases, you're always going to have very limited information. But as we discuss them, there will be new information and leads that come forward. So we'll be discussing these things as time goes by, and little bits of new information will come out. So why don't we
want to talk about the...
Give me one more time since it's a cold case.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Let's talk about that case that we brought up last week. And I know that people were interested in the case that you brought up last week. So mention it again and tell us what you found out.
Yeah, so I have an update. So this is kind of exciting. But first of all, I'll tell you again what the case is about. So last week, Kevin and I had... we were comparing cold cases from the South Shore where I live, and he lives on the North Shore. So one case that I looked up in my town of Scituate is a 1944 cold case. So it was about this little girl, 10-year-old, again, another 10-year-old, Frances McGrath, who was the daughter of a Boston city councilor. And they were from Boston or Dorchester, and they summered down here in Scituate. So they had just gotten to Scituate, and it was Peggotty Beach. It was a popular summer spot where they had their home. They just arrived for the summer. So it was June. It was actually, I think it was 6 days after D-Day. So they'd gotten out of school and arrived. And her and her friends, so Frances and her sisters, went to St. Mary's Church for confession. This is in the evening. So confession was at 7 p.m. Then they went to get some ice cream. And then there was a bowling alley right there. And a bowling alley was there for years. And I even took my kids there. So she went into the bowling alley and was there and was seen leaving the bowling alley around 9:15 and then was never seen again. Okay. Well, she was never seen alive again. So there was a search, 6 days of a search for her. And finally, this guy named Lopes, Mr. Lopes, he was a farmer, and he parked his truck along a dirt road in Norwell, which is the next town over, not to like 6 miles from Peggotty Beach, from where she was. And he reported that he saw a body, and he investigated. It was the body of Frances. So, they found her, and her clothes were up to her neck, and it looked, I think she was sexually assaulted. I believe she was raped. So it was awful. But then the weird twist in this case is Lopes was having an affair with Mrs. Pina. All right. And allegedly Lopes got interrogated by the police, and he said, well, I actually saw the body 3 days before, but I didn't report it because I was having an affair with Mrs. Pina, and I didn't want her husband to find out.
Yeah.
So I'm reporting it now. And I think that's suspicious. So anyway, it's still unsolved.
Yeah.
They were named. Okay, here we go again, Kevin. They were named as persons of interest, Mrs. Pina and Lopes, but never officially a suspect in the actual murder. So then I reached out. I think I told you guys, I reached out to the Scituate police and the Plymouth DA's office to try to investigate the case. Never heard back from the Plymouth DA's office. Remember, I'm a former prosecutor, so I reminded them of that. But the Scituate police, I was driving this morning on Route 3, and I got a call from the Scituate police. I'm like, uh-oh, my house is being broken into or something. And sure enough,
we're tracking you. We know who you are.
I'm like, I was on the other line. I'm like, Christine, I gotta go. It's the police. So anyway, it turned out to be the top lieutenant, detective lieutenant, and he's like, oh my gosh, and I told him the story. And so he's very, very, very interested, very nice person. We talked for about 45 minutes. So I said to him, I'm like, well, where would evidence like this be? Is it like Law and Order, where you're going to have to go into up in a shelf in a dusty old box? And he said, well, so Scituate just got a brand new, beautiful police station. So he said it's all been reorganized by a company. He's like, I don't think they would throw that box out. Let's hope not. But he's going to go upstairs and check. So that was kind of exciting. And then I was talking to him about he was saying, well, and then there's this other retired police officers, so and so is in his high 80s, and then there's somebody else. He's like, and I said to him, I said, boy, can you imagine headlines, right? Even if we start investigating this case, Scituate police never give up on justice.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So I'm excited.
Right. Even if they don't get new evidence, just the fact that they're looking into it is a good headline for them. That's a great point.
It would be really interesting when for me to go to the police station and look at all the old reports and see how they were written, and 1944, again in World War II era. So I'm very excited to be investigating this case with you, Kevin. It'll be fun.
And one of the questions that you and I had when we had dinner last week is that, what is there a point where evidence gets moved to a different spot in the police station when it's officially a cold case, or it gets to is it just all stored alphabetically from the beginning of the Scituate police until the end of time, or do things get moved to another area where they're just, no longer, they're not giving up, but they don't want it in the way,
I didn't ask him that question. I forgot.
Yeah. No, but he's going to have you've made a good connection with him, so he's going to have regular. So this is you guys in chat may have questions too, general questions like that about how police. Because look, let's face it. That's one of the things that we learned in the Karen Reed case is that none of us, even most of the lawyers that I've seen on court TV, have really had no idea how evidence is stored, where it's stored. All that stuff. So I think we all have legitimate questions on that. So if you have any questions, send them to us. And most of you have my email.
Yeah, and then I can ask the police. But I'm also going to be talking to people in the Historical Society. So I think it'll be. And another cool thing. Society. Yeah, another interesting thing is, let's say I asked him. I said, wouldn't it be interesting if you guys could test some of the clothing from Frances, what she was wearing, especially, and then do the match it with, relatives and bring a case to closure. If they could do that, then it would be the oldest case in the country cold case to be solved using DNA, new technology.
And there must be so many challenges with that, right? Because, you're going to have police officers DNA
I'm not
on
saying that we will, but at least we can try.
Yeah. Yeah, like how would you imagine that process might begin? So you'd have to separate DNA that belongs to her friends, that belongs to family members, that belongs to the police investigators, and then I guess you're looking at what's left over, and you're trying to see if something looks a little suspicious. What do you think?
Well, no, what they, from what I've read so far, they let's say there were persons of interest back then. Let's say this guy Lopes. The person of interest, the suspicious guy that was having an affair. I think that's really odd.
That would be big if his DNA was on there. Yeah.
So it's not just, so they look to the family. So they would look to see if any relatives of Lopes, like through the maybe a grand son,
somebody related to Lopes, right?
Someone related, and it doesn't have to be direct line, I don't think, but they will get a DNA sample from that person if they're willing to give it, and that's how they would run it, and then they can figure it out with their computers and all that AI that they use, and if there's a match with something on her clothing, let's say, but then again, did he touch it? But let's say there's semen or something, right? Like, I don't know, maybe they preserved that.
Maybe.
And then if it matched to Loeb's relatives, then that would be, that I think they could have enough to say that he did.
I think it's important to point out too that these things can also be exculpatory to a degree. So if you don't find any evidence of anybody from Loeb's family, any connection to Loeb's in the DNA on there, that doesn't prove he's innocent, but it throws a little bit of weight to the side that his story was true.
Yeah.
So DNA is used in both ways, very,
Yeah.
very importantly in both ways, to exonerate people as well as to find out the killer.
Right. And then we do have somebody that is an expert in this field of investigative DNA technology that's going to come on the show. I reached out to her, and she's going to be talking with us. So she can talk to us about this 1944 case and answer some of those questions, which will be great.
Yeah.
She couldn't come on tonight. She just started, teaches, and she just started teaching. So that's why she couldn't come on with us tonight.
Yeah.
I had originally asked her.
Okay. Well, I look forward to talking to her whenever she's ready. All right. So we're going to try a new part of the show. And depending how this goes, we'll spend 5 minutes on this. We'll spend a little longer, and then we'll call it a night. We'll see how it goes. But I also have a clip for this. Let's see where we put it. This is a little bit more lighthearted. Well, that was a cheap one that I made.
I'm America.
I have another one, actually. That was the cheap one that I made. My bad editing.
That's better.
Yeah.
That's better, Kevin.
Yeah. Hey, I did the best I
could. I like it. This is the first time I'm seeing it too, by the way.
And no, I did not make that. My editing skills don't go to that. I had
some
credits.
I thought you did.
I had some credits left on Fire, but that one with the telegraph noise, that's from the old Walter Winchell show. So
actually, it's not bad. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. He used to. This was a famous writer from the New York Times, I believe, Walter Winchell, or one of the New York papers, and then he became a radio broadcaster in like the late 40s and in the early 50s, and his style was to read the news really, really quickly. But to create that tension, he would do that little. I think it's effective at creating that tension. Like, and here comes the news. I always thought I had that in my head. That must have been.
I actually don't mind that. Well, what does everybody think in chat? I think it's kind of funny. If this Pete part is lighthearted, then that's kind of cute.
All right. So let's see. So for this section here, what we're going to do is just kind of like look through some random headlines. I'll keep an eye out for things that are in true crime, but these are not necessarily things that we've studied very closely, and I'll bring them on the screen for people. Actually, these are things we haven't studied at all. Let's bring the first one up.
Okay, come on, Kevin.
All right. So, unfortunately, it's not going to be much quicker in terms of being able to bring these up. But she took a DNA test for fun. Police used it to charge her grandmother with murder in a cold case.
Woo!
This actually kind of reminds me, when my grandmother was 99 years old, my brother-in-law decided to bring her one of those kits from Ancestry.com, and she had to spit into it. And she was getting so annoyed. She's like, "You guys just want to show that I killed whoever it was." It was so funny.
That's kind of interesting. Do you have anything more on that?
Let's see. It says, in the middle of Jenna Juriktowski's, that's a good name for me, workday at the local flower shop in Newbury, Michigan, when she got a call from an unknown number. The now 23-year-old doesn't usually answer unknown calls, but she decided to pick this up. To her surprise, it was a detective from Michigan, and he was like, "Have you heard of the Baby Garnett case?" And Jenna had heard of it, and apparently there was a DNA match, I guess, to her grandmother or to someone in her family. So they had to do a test on it. And here's the girl, and here's her grandmother.
They arrested the grandmother. So what happened to the baby?
About 6 months earlier, her friend had gotten a family tree DNA. So this is like which we've been talking about, how they use something similar to Ancestry. Yep. And DNA from the Baby Garnett relatives led detectives to Jenna's family tree. And so they had the grandmother take a test, I'm assuming. Let's see. So the detective said a woman from Identifinders International, a genetic genealogy. So this is one of the things, I think you talked about this on the last show. There are huge data sets that the police don't have access to. For instance, I'm not sure if they have Ancestry. They have access. There's a couple that are cooperating, but two of the bigger ones, I think Ancestry, and what's the other big one?
23andMe.
23andMe. I think to this point, they have not been cooperating with the police.
Right.
Probably for sensible business reasons. Like people are less likely to want to spit into their thing if they think they might be, identified connected to some case. So they probably keep that data. But that's made it harder for police to find, these suspects.
Yeah, but they're still solving quite a number of cold cases, Kevin,
Yeah.
with the data banks that they're using.
This is a long article, so I won't bore people with reading
You
it.
should have read it before the show.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering what happened to the baby. And gee, Kevin, we'll have to do that show.
Go to
All right, so
CNN if you want to find
another
that
one?
story. Let's see. These aren't all crime ones. We'll try to avoid anything political, so we don't have any arguments. Did you see this thing about the Cracker Barrel thing? Do you ever go to Cracker Barrel?
Yeah.
I like their food there. I actually, it's really obviously not the healthiest food for you. Especially it's really fattening it's probably full of all kinds of fats too. But their new CEO thought their old sign, you can barely see it here, but let me see if I get a bigger version of this. It's got the old guy. Yeah, I guess that's the only version we have. It's got the old guy with his arm on a barrel, and it says Cracker Barrel on the sign next to him. So it's got that old-timey feel, and that's what the whole theme of the breakfast is and the gift shops that are in there. So the new CEO, who is very politically correct, obviously, said, no, we want to be more relevant, is the word she used. So they got rid of the old guy, and now they have this boring, what you see right there.
Oh, yeah.
And they've made and I saw this story on the news. They made the insides look all modern.
Oh, that's not the original. How's it going?
I know. And so the stock dropped like 25% the first day they announced this. So I'm assuming that this CEO is currently in a financial terms being pushed out of plane right now, and she's going to get her golden parachute, and she's going to be pushed to this curb, I would assume, because this was just a horrible decision that comes from her unfortunately progressive ideology that tells her that everything has to be relevant. No, this is the whole point of this franchise is to not be relevant. It's to be old timey. It's supposed to go back and harken another time. So let's see if there's anything else in the news for CNN.
And I didn't look in the news for that. I didn't do my homework on this.
You didn't do your homework?
No.
Oh.
busy.
I always thought you were a homework kind of girl.
You know what I was doing? I was writing a Substack article on the beginning of the Donna Edelman case. And that's what I spent all my time doing. And then, of course, did I publish it yet? No, because I'm one of those writers that keeps going over it. But I was talking about the how important the beginning of a trial, the opening statements, and the witnesses that you use to kick off a case can decide the verdict in the long run. So that's what I'm going to get it done tomorrow. It's just been crazy. As you know, my daughter's wedding is coming up too. So
right. How old is your daughter?
My daughter's 29, and she'll be married on September
29. 20th. Oh, yes. All right. So this one here, again, I only glanced at this story, but it's a weird story. A mom crashes a golf cart into a lake, and then police make gruesome discoveries. A mother is accused of crashing a golf cart into a lake with 3 of her children inside, leading police to discover the deaths of her 4-year-old son and her husband separately. What the hell's going on here? Why was someone? Is that real news? Yeah, this is from Microsoft Network News.
Wow.
The incident happened around 10:39 a.m. According to Campbell, that's the police chief, the woman was with her 18-year-old twin sons, 18-year-old and 15-year-old daughter, when she drove a golf cart into Atwood Lake. This is near Cleveland. Her children got out of the water on their own, and when individuals at the scene helped the woman out of the water, she made concerning statements about conversing with God.
Yeah.
It was evident that the crash into the water was intentional by the mother, and that investigators spoke to the woman and her children and learned that her 4-year-old son. So I don't understand. Her husband went into the water in a golf cart and drowned? I don't
Maybe
really.
she did it before. I don't know.
Like the 4-year-old I could see, but why would I mean? Strange. And it
Maybe
sounds
she
like
poisoned
other
them.
people with and other yeah, maybe. And other people were there too, who 2 18-year-old sons. So I mean, I don't understand this story. That's why I kind of selected it as interesting. Let's see. And his 45-year-old father, Miller, were eventually found dead. Their remains, so that's the 4-year-old and the father, their remains have been taken to the medical's office. Both the coroner and the sheriff's office are actively investigating the case and said that they believe Marcus Miller died by suicide. Oh,
Wow. Well, that's a lot of
that's
interesting
a twist.
deaths. Yeah.
Yeah. So what did he said? Honey, I want to kill myself. So drive us into the pond in the golf cart.
I don't
I don't
know,
get it.
Kevin.
What kind of world are we living in?
I know. Golf cart murder. You know what? Yeah, we could the golf cart murder series.
I just like it's like it's something. It's like it struck me as just so strange. And even I hadn't even read the whole story, and I see it there. Like so, the the mother drove the son, the 4-year-old son, in the presence of 18-year-old boys, and the father into the lake. But yet they're calling the father's death suicide. I don't get it.
Yeah, but are you sure that were there more than? And my question would be, how many how many crashes were there into the lake with the golf cart? Is it something where the bodies, how long had the other bodies been in there? Did she kill them one like 2 months before?
And they just happened to go
Or
back in the same place or knew to go to the same place.
something like that. So I just wondered
Yeah,
what the
maybe.
time of death was. That's all.
And so she went
For
in. So
each
she drove
body.
into there, hoping to lead investigators or somebody to
Or
discover.
now she's like, oh, this is a good place to kill somebody. So I'm gonna drive there
I can tell
again.
you, based on my dad as a golfer would have found those bodies very quickly because they go in there looking for balls.
Oh, I know,
You know,
but yeah, they do. They do. I don't know, Kevin. That's a weird one.
although I don't,
Were there
you know what,
alligators? Were there
I was just
alligators
gonna
in there?
say, yeah, maybe golfers in Florida don't do that because of the alligators.
Yeah. What about it?
They
What do you
don't.
think about? What does everybody think about alligator Alcatraz? Woo! No
Glad I don't
escape
have
from
to live there.
alligator Alcatraz down in Florida.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have to spend any time there. Let's see. Here's a true crime website from the HuffPost. I don't know who Young Dolph is. Is that a famous gangster rapper? Memphis man found not guilty in Young Dolph ambush killing case. All right. Stop me if any of these headlines interest you. Nazi flags spotted hanging from a high school roof. Ketamine queen accused of selling fatal dose to Matthew Perry and agrees to plead guilty.
I find that one interesting. I did read something on that. Yeah. Yeah. I'm glad. I'm glad they're finding that guy guilty, or that he's going to be. They must have had enough evidence on him. And his attorney.
It's a woman. It's a woman.
Her. Yes, that's right.
Ketamine queen.
Yep. Queen. Yes, you're right. I wonder how much time the ketamine queen will serve.
Yeah, and obviously she didn't kill him on purpose, but she still should be held responsible for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, she was a prolific drug dealer. And also, this isn't, I don't have this in front of me on the news, but I guess American military ships are off the coast of Venezuela, and there's some speculation that we might be going to go in there and take out what is a Madero, I think his name is. He's basically a dictator down there. He doesn't run honest elections. Communist dictator down there. And Trump seems to possibly have made some decision to overthrow this guy. I don't know what you guys think about that.
That's interesting. I got to read more on that.
Let's see. Supermarket gunman who targeted black people wants charges dropped. Says the grand jury.
Oh my God. That's interesting.
Good luck with that. Good luck with that. Man charged with cyber stalking a family member of killed healthcare CEO.
Huh?
And then trial begins of man accused of faking death to avoid rape charges. Wonder how do you fake death in the modern day and age? Where everything is so easy to track.
I know. I
It
know.
says he fled.
Like we said before, it's hard to commit a murder in the modern day of
Yeah,
age.
right. It says he fled to the United Kingdom to avoid being tried for sexually assaulting 2 women in 2008. And wow, this picture here has him in like a wheelchair too. How do you flee if you're in a wheelchair? Right?
Yeah, I know. God. I don't know
Slowly, I
where you
guess, is the
come up with
answer.
these things. Jeez.
Um, let's see. It says a man known in the U.S. as Nicholas Rossi, whose legal name is Nicholas Alaverdian. They love challenging me with this. Is accused of sexually assaulting 2 women in Utah. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. He was arrested in Scotland a year after he was reported dead. All I want to do is see how he faked his death.
Yeah, I know.
When he was recognized at a Glasgow hospital, so he went for COVID-19 treatment, and they found out who he really was.
Oh my God.
And
wouldn't you?
He claimed he was an Irish orphan named Arthur Knight who had never set foot in American soil. So he must have faked the accent pretty well.
Yeah, that's tough to do.
I couldn't do
Can you
it.
imagine faking your own death? I just read a fiction book about that. Somebody faked his own death.
Oh,
but that was fiction.
Yeah, how did they do it in your book? Yeah,
in the fiction book.
Yeah.
Oh my God! You know what? It was 2 books ago. I forget. I'll have to let you know. I forget.
It was such a complicated plot.
It was like 2 books ago, and I forget how he tried to fake his death. But
What do you remember? If it was hard trying to come up with a way, did you have to how did you research
it?
Well,
I didn't write that. It was a book I read.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't write it.
You said you wrote that.
No, read a book I read. Somebody faked.
Man attempted to smuggle 850 protected turtles as plastic animal toys. They must move very slowly if you're trying to get them through as plastic toys.
I know. Yeah, what an idiot. I agree.
And they'll make this the last one. Georgia man who shot at CDC headquarters blamed COVID vaccine for depression.
Oh my God.
Well,
jeez. Can I tell you? I have to tell you a funny story. Back in Lawrence, when this all reminded me of. We should do I think this would be funny, Kevin. We should look throughout the week for stupid stories. Stupid, criminals. For example, I was in Lawrence as a young assistant DA. And I think there was a case that came up for arraignment. And I'll never forget, I was in front of old Judge Gerasitis, who was funny. The judge was originally from Charlestown. He had that thick accent and everything. So this one guy burglared a home, and he got caught because he and his girlfriend went to a fair, and they got pictures of themselves taken, and he was wearing a little button. It was like a pin-on button with he and his girlfriend in a picture, and it fell off at the crime scene. So that's how they caught him. And Judge Geraside is like, he goes, you are, like, this is seriously right in open court. He goes, oh my God, I need to put you in jail for your stupidity. And that's what he would do. He would say all this stuff in open court. And I was like laughing so hard, there was tears coming out of my eyes. And the guy was like this doofus guy. He was like, well, yeah, my thing fell off. You can't make
What's he going to say, right?
Lawrence
I'm pretty
was
stupid.
So much,
you're right.
Lawrence was the best place to work as a young assistant DA, because there are so many stories I could tell you guys about crazy things that happened that you just laugh. You'd be laughing all night. Like, oh my God. I'll save the next. I'll save the next.
Are you saying people from Lawrence are stupid? Because I'm from Lawrence.
Well, no, I'm not saying, but this guy was like you can't make that up. So
I know, it's crazy.
Anyway.
Why don't I forgot. We had some Kohlberger stuff to go through too. Some new Kohlberger stuff.
Yep. We can save that for tomorrow night.
Let's see. I don't even remember where I put these. Oh, here it is.
Yeah. Why don't we save, you know what? I think
we have Molly Fish tomorrow night. Okay.
But I know we could do both.
Okay. Well, I have the
We can talk
feeling
about
that
it
Erin's going
Wednesday.
to take up our whole show with this with Molly Bish tomorrow. But yeah, we'll save the Kohlberger stuff. That'll be good all week. There's some body
Okay.
cam
Oh, till what? Because I think it's
video
getting
that's
late
yeah,
at this
okay.
point.
It's 9 o'clock. All right, guys. So thank you very much,
Yeah.
Margaret. And just to let everybody that's been loyal and faithful enough to stick with us here,
Yes,
we're
thank
going to
you.
keep working on making these shows better and getting more information. And as it develops, we'll get more information on these cold
Right.
cases. But if you're bored, so one of us, someone will be here every night. And we have other guests and other co-hosts and stuff that'll be joining us, but every night from 8 to 9.
Yes. And then tomorrow night will be a good show with Molly Bish. We're going to be talking about that. So
We'll have on my old co-host partner, Erin Warshauer. She had gone to the location of where Molly's body was found and talked to some people out there, and so we'll have some original footage to look at, and it should be a good show.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much, Margaret, and thank you everybody for being here.